million dollars is the amount that FIFA was scheduled to pay to the local organizing committee here in South Africa. Only $413 million reached these shores. What happened to the other 10 million? That is, at the moment, Robin, certainly the question.
What next? I mean, South Africa and South Africans really rallied behind that World Cup. It meant a lot for the national psyche, the national spirit to put on that World Cup. There's been a lot of criticism now saying it was all built on smoke and mirrors. Just give us an understanding of why Sepp Blatter has been so revered in many places around the world, but in Africa particularly, and why this will be felt by many people on the continent.
Yeah, I think what Sepp Blatter has managed to do well is that after 2006 and South Africa narrowly missing out to Germany for that World Cup bid, he made a pledge, didn't he, that he was going to take the World Cup, make it the World Cup and take it around the globe. And he made a pledge that Africa would get one of those, certainly, if not in 2010, then shortly thereafter in 2014. And as a result, he is seen as the man that brought the World Cup in many respects, along with Danny O'Dan, who played a huge and very influential role from a South African point of view. But his legacy from an African point of view is that he brought the World Cup to South Africa. South Africa for 2010 up against Morocco, of course, just the two countries involved. And I think that the way in which they lost out in 2006 always meant that they were a virtual shoe-in for 2010. Now the questions are being asked if it's a matter of semantics, and the way in which they won that bid in 2010 was a bribe. And the response here in South Africa to that has been absolutely enormous, and there now certainly is a feeling that that tournament might have been tainted. As you pointed out, during the tournament itself, it was one of the showpiece event. In 1995, we had a Rugby World Cup here, we had a Cricket World Cup in 2003, and the 2010 FIFA Football World Cup was seen to be the crown jewel of all global sports events for South Africa, certainly at the time. And I think that at the time, for now, certainly, that was Blatter's legacy from a South African point of view. As we're seeing this fallout certainly take place, that leaves a rather bitter taste in the mouth.
Absolutely. John Smith there from EWN. Great to have you on CNN. Thanks so much for that perspective. Well, I want to get some perspective on what's happening on the social media platforms to this announcement that Sepp Blatter has resigned. Our Samuel Burke joins us now from London. Hi there, Sam. No doubt this has not gone unnoticed.
That's one way of putting it, Robin. If you look at trendsmap.com, this visualizes where in the world people are talking about Blatter, and the simple answer is everywhere, but nowhere more than here in Northwest Europe. This topic is really resonating here. But if you take a closer look, Twitter, the #1 topic, Blatter, hashtag Blatter. And then if you look at topseat.com, this gives us a little more context. Right now, there are 481,000 people talking about Sepp Blatter, much more than any other day we've seen, even his re-election, which you see here. But I want to share just some of the tweets that we're seeing. This is from an everyday fan, but I think represents a lot of what we're seeing on social media. Happy Blatter is gone. Definitely not over, though. We see so many fans who think this isn't over for Blatter. It isn't over for FIFA, that this scandal will continue. And we're hearing that echoed from sports journalists as well. People like Grant Wall from Sports Illustrated saying, great day for world soccer, but can FIFA be trusted to vote in a legitimate reformer to replace Blatter? The structure itself is rotten. Those are his words. But again, we hear so many fans saying that they don't have that faith in FIFA right now, and they want to wait and see. Then we have our own CNN anchor, John Berman. This is one of the most tweeted tweets right now, the most retweeted messages that we see on social media. Out of millions who entered, no one picked Loretta Lynch, the United States Attorney General, and the person who would be the one to take down Sepp Blatter pool. Just wow. And finally, finishing off with a little bit of humor, Robin, the former English footballer Gary Lineker. Blatter has resigned. Can't quite believe it. FIFA always appeared to be such a fine, upstanding organization. And you see lots of people making a lot of jokes on Twitter, some of which we can't even share here on CNN. But Always good to end it with a little bit of humor.
Absolutely, and we're totally going to share them off camera. But as always, Samuel Burke, thank you so much for really giving us a sense of what the conversation is on social media. Thank you so much. So just to recap where we are, developing breaking story here at CNN, bombshell hitting world football today. FIFA President Sepp Blatter says he will be stepping down in the middle of this sweeping corruption scandal that's hit the organization. Just remember, Blatter was re-elected to a 5th term just last week, despite strong opposition from the president of UEFA and other leading officials in Europe. Today, the FIFA boss said the organization needed a profound overhaul and that he lacked a sufficient mandate from the entire world of football to lead. Blatter also said the reforms he's tried to implement over the years haven't been enough, so he's stepping down after the executive committee organizes a special new election to vote in his successor. Now, that special election is now expected sometime between this December and next March. A lot to digest, and our Alex Thomas is the man to unpack it all. You've been following the story and the fortunes of Sepp Blatter for years, but specifically you were in Zurich last week. I asked you then what the tone was, what the mood was. Very different to now.
It was a momentous week for the world of football, which is the most popular sport on the planet last week, but nothing quite compares to the announcement just over an hour ago now when Sepp Blatter stood up at FIFA House, the building that he's helped construct, an astonishing metallic and glass architectural creation in the hills above Zurich, and confirms what many in the world of football outside of those bosses that voted for him at FIFA's Congress have been asking for years, that he would be quitting the game. Not immediately, mind though, Robin. Worth repeating that FIFA President Sepp Blatter will stay in charge until FIFA's Congress, that's the 209 national associations from across the globe, will meet again earlier than scheduled, which was going to be in Mexico next May. There will be an extraordinary Congress meeting. It'll happen between December at the end of this year and March next year, and they will vote in a new president. Blatter will stay in charge until then. So already, just an hour later after we were flabbergasted by this news, the cogs in all our brains are working overtime to know what this means, and could Sepp Blatter yet play a part in who his successor might be. We know he's got huge influence amongst those that are doing the voting, even if many fans and sections of the media aren't very appreciative of his efforts over 40 years at FIFA and 17 years as president of the organisation. Remember, one of the people that he suggested could be his successor was Jeffrey Webb, the president of CONCACAF, who's currently suspended from football provisionally by FIFA's own ethics committee in a reaction to that US Department of Justice investigation that started all this controversy off last Wednesday morning, dawn raids on FIFA's luxury hotel. And here we are just under a week later with Blatter going, Robin.
Indeed, and the big question, and you're right, is whether or not Sepp Blatter will anoint his successor and whether that successor will be a legitimate reformer. Alex Thomas, thanks so much. Now the curtain quivers, set to fall now over an extraordinary career in the politics of world sport. Don Riddell looks back at Sepp Blatter's career.
The FIFA boss Sepp Blatter is a polarizing figure. In some parts of the football world, he is reviled. But these pictures tell a very different story. In the wake of his 5th presidential election triumph in Zurich, he was revered as if he was a rock star. Delegates lining up to congratulate and be pictured with him, all wanting to bask in the glory with the most powerful man in world football.
I like you. I like my job, and I like to be with you. I'm not perfect. Nobody is perfect. But